on, people? Welcome back to AFTV and welcome back to another Box to Box. Of course, we take on Burnley this Saturday, 3 p.m. kickoff away at Turf Moor. So we've got Joe from Turfcast to give his, thoughts and feelings ahead of the game, get an insight to how Burnley have, got on this season, his thoughts on Arsenal. I'm going to get straight into it. Joe, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, mate. It's always a pleasure to come on.
Yes. Well, let's just start on how you're feeling ahead of Saturday's game, because Arsenal fans, we're coming off the back of a 6-0 battering, beating West Ham. So
Yeah.
a lot of us, I'm sure, are very confident, but I want to get your thoughts and feelings ahead of the game.
Yeah, obviously not too confident. I was watching that match on Sunday, was it? At the weekend, anyway, when you were playing West Ham, and you started off really well. I was like, okay, Arsenal look good at the minute. Let's hope they fade away. And you just didn't, obviously. Obviously, you went on and, as you've just said, battered them 6-0. A very good result, played very well. And I literally ended watching that behind the settee. I was like, oh, God, if they play like this against us, then it could be double figures. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, you are more up for that, with it being a London derby and against a good side, than you will be this weekend. So you won't put us to the sword as much. But yeah, you said you're confident, and I can't really blame you for being confident, really. I don't think many Burnley fans will predict anything other than an Arsenal win.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right in what you said there, though. I think West Ham for us is a bit of a bogey team, so we kind of going into it. It's a London derby as well, and we owed them one. So I think we'll definitely. Well, listen, we should be up for every game, but definitely we'll be more focused on West Ham, I think, than coming to Burnley this weekend. But that's not to put any disrespect on Burnley, because we need 3 points. I know you guys are currently sitting 19th as well. I kind of want to get your thoughts so far on the season, because you've had a lot of ups and downs. I know companies trying to push in the philosophy. I've actually watched a few of your videos, and I'm sure every time you go on a different platform, they ask you, what do you make of company? Should he stay? Should he be sacked? I think every Burnley fan gets asked that. But just your thoughts so far on this season.
Well, obviously the season hasn't gone as we expected. Like, I was on, other channels, like big channels like The Overlap at the start of the season. Sort of like sitting there saying, we'll stay up, we'll be fine, we'll stay up. There were some Burnley fans who were overconfident, saying we should be pushing top half. I was never that far. But I did think we'd stay up. I didn't think we'd really be in that much of a battle. Just kind of like flirting with it, kind of like Brentford and Palace are now, but never really getting sucked into it and always being safe. Obviously, the season hasn't gone well. It started off with a defeat at home to City, as you'd expect, but then it just never really got better. We just kept losing too much. The form was dreadful. But just going back to the point you made about Vincent Kompany, now it's weird because most Burnley fans do want to stand by him and respect that he's going to be the best man to take us forward next season into the Championship. Like, he's had one season in the Championship and got over 100 points, won the league. And that's when he came in, even in like a summer of turmoil, because obviously we just got relegated. We'd sacked Sean Dyche, who'd been there for 9 years, a few months before that. We then lost Nick Pope, James Tarkowski, Ben Mee. Ashley Westwood left not so long after. Chris Wood left just before that. So he had a lot to do. Now, yes, it's not been a great season in the Prem, and I know it's difficult to break the habit of losing. But, it's going to be a settled summer, hopefully. There's not going to be too many people leaving, not going to be too many people coming in. So we've got a decent squad. And when you look at the squad, a lot of these are injured and won't play this weekend. But Lyle Foster, Luca Koleosho, Wilson Order, these are very good attacking players that, in my opinion, will do very well in the Championship next season. So the majority of the Burnley fans do see that and do want Kompany to lead us into next season. But it is growing a little bit now, the cries of wanting him out. But it's still a minority.
Yeah, listen, I want to talk about some of those individual players that you mentioned. I know you said some of them, won't be available this weekend. But before we get into that, just what do you think the issue lies when it came to coming into the Premier League, and why Burnley have struggled so much? Because you're right, you play good football. I think before you came up, a lot of people would say you might be able to compete. You said you were maybe looking to be around the Brentford sides, the Palaces, and all that. But what do you think was there injuries involved, players being not available? Is it the fact that the Premier League is a better standard than the players that you have? Because we did a preview, and James said something quite interesting. He said Sean Dyche's Burnley side I'll be more fearful of than a company Burnley side. So what do you think the lack of points and games winning is down to?
Well, first of all, I think there's a lack of defensive nous. Like, James made the perfect example there. Like, you would be scared of playing a Sean Dyche team, because we would just sit in them two banks of four. All right, we wouldn't venture forward too much, and we'd try and hit you on a very rare counter or a set piece, but we'd be good at them, and that's why you'd be fearful of them, and we'd be good at defending. So that's why you'd be like, even though you just stuck six past West Ham, you could probably think, oh well, we might just scrape one against Burnley because we just out everybody behind them. But we don't do that anymore. We try and play football, and because It's like we're trying to play in the same. Everyone tries to do this these days, and when we're playing against teams like yourselves who clearly are better in every single area of the pitch, then we lose all the battles across the pitch. Whereas last year we were winning the battles across the pitch. But for me, I think the main reason why we haven't done as well this season as what we all anticipated is because we came up with this championship-winning team who ran away with it, battered everybody. And then we completely dismantled it. Like, we had our goalkeeper, Muric, who was dropped for Trafford. Trafford's come in and, Trafford's been a big talking point. And in my opinion, he's not been good enough.
Young goalkeeper's done, he's done, I think he's done all right. And he's got, he won the under-21s or 23s World Cup, or the Euros. I think he's a quality goalkeeper.
He is, and he will be very good. But this season, he's just not been good enough, mate. And I think you scored 2 corners against us, didn't you, at the Emirates? Or
we did, yeah, we
you
did.
definitely
Saliba
scored one.
Yeah. Saliba, then Zinchenko did that scissor kick.
It was a good goal. We've just been so weak on set pieces and corners because of Trafford, not just because of Trafford, but he's a big issue with it. But I'm not putting all the blame on him. Like, he's young and he will get better. But the point is, like, we dismantled that championship winning side. Anas Aurora, Manuel Benson, they were class last season. And they've just not been given a sniff this year. Same with Muric. Charlie Taylor's been in and out of the team through injury. Foster's been in and out of the team through injury and the mental health issues that he had earlier in the season. Yeah. He will be missing again this weekend due to an operation that he's had. So, yeah, it has been a mixture of injuries, not being good enough, and, in my opinion, the main one was the fact that the team just got dismantled. And as a player, when you've done as well as you did last season, like, it must be heart-wrenching just to be told, you're going back into the Championship on loan to Hull. Like, don't get me wrong, there's no disrespect to Hull, but when you've earned the right to play in the Premier League, I think players deserve to play in the Premier League, and a lot of our lads didn't. Yeah,
agreed. No, listen, fair enough. Thank you for giving that insight, because I do find it interesting, because obviously Lyle Foster, I think we might have spoken before about obviously the mental health side of it all, and I know he was out for a long time, come back, he's your top goal scorer, came back, seeming like things were well. I didn't know he's out this weekend because he's having surgery, did you say?
He's just, he missed last weekend due to a muscle injury, that's all we were told, but we've now been told he's had an operation on the injury. That's all they've officially said.
So there's that, and then Koleosho, again, a guy who caused us, he
class,
tormented.
He's 18, 19, he's going to be so good, mate. Watch out for him.
Yeah, he's out though as well, isn't he? He's out for this, is he? Yeah,
he's out for the season, knee injury. Like, we've been really unlucky. But yes, Koleosho was class when we played against you, and he ripped up other top 6 teams. Like, he had Diego Dallo on toes when United came to the turf. But then Wilson Odegaard's come in, and he's been just as good in the same position. So watch out for Wilson Odegaard. Like, we will miss Koleosho, but Odegaard is very, very good, and he's another youngster as well.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I like Brownhill as well, but there's one player I kind of want to just. I mean, he's for me the danger man. For Fofana's obviously come in. Obviously he's on loan, and I'm sure you've been speaking about him for a week since he's probably come in as well of recent times. So just give me your thoughts, because I know he didn't score. I don't think he scored his last game. He scored a brace on his debut. But is there a lot of excitement when it comes to him? Is it something that that's who you look for when it comes to against Arsenal that can cause us problems?
For now, I think that's probably the only player that's on the pitch that can cause you problems, apart from Odegaard. But Odegaard, like I said, is more of a left wing coming inside. Whereas Fofana, like, he played very well against Fulham. Like, his first game was Man City away, and he'd only been there for a few days at this point. Then he came in, held the ball up well, did some good things, got the assist for the goal. All right, it was a consolation. We lost 3-1, obviously, at Man City. But then everyone's like, oh, well, he should start now against Fulham next up. Company didn't start him, but he brought him on around the 70th minute, something like that, and then scored 2 goals. He was doing something that Lyle Foster doesn't do often, and he drives into the box. Whether without the ball or with the ball, he drives into the box like a proper out-and-out number 9 does. Lyle's more of a number 10, I think, in my opinion. But that's a bit of a debate on the Burnley hashtags. A perfect scenario for me would have Fofana in the 9, Lyle in the 10. But that's because players like Amdouni haven't done too well in the 10. Like, he's probably an out-and-out traditional more 10. Whereas Lyle, I'm not for 1 second comparing him to Harry Kane. But like how Harry Kane always comes deep and links the play up. That's kind of what Lyle does a lot. And whereas Fofana's more of a drive into the box sort of forward. And that's how he scored his goals against Fulham. Played very well against Liverpool, got in the right areas, just missed a couple of chances that he probably should have done better with. But hopefully if he gets these chances again at the weekend, it puts him away. But that's a positive sign. So what I've seen of him so far, he gets in the areas to get the chances, whereas Lyle would sometimes be a little bit too deep for that.
Yeah, well, I think that could cause Arsenal some issues, definitely, because listen, players that drop back and try and get involved in the build-up play for centre-backs, I think it's easier to manage. I think when you have a like David Fofana, if you have an out-and-out 9 who just wants to keep going at you, you have to be switched on throughout the game. And sometimes, listen, of recent, Arsenal have been very good defensively. We've got the best defensive record currently in the league, but there is times where, you know, we might switch off, especially against a player like that. So hopefully we'll be able to keep it switched on. We are going to get, you know, your thoughts on Arsenal as well so far this season. But before we do that, just company, and I know, again, I apologise because it's probably been done to death about asking about the manager and, you know, because of the results he's got at the moment. But what, for you as a Burnley fan, do you see, you know, in him to say, listen, I'm not going to ask him to leave, or I don't want him out at the moment? What are you really holding on to? Is it the fact that the style of play? Because even when I look at the percentages, sometimes most times teams have more percentage of the ball than Burnley, but I do see Burnley getting opportunities in many games, even against big sides. So I want to know from your side, what is it that you're holding on to when it comes to company and trusting the process or the long-term, you know, picture?
I think that's exactly it. And I know it can annoy some Burnley fans when I say this, but it's exactly that, like the process. Like we were this time 3 years ago a club that everybody just scoffed at, like, oh, they're playing a certain style, like, and they saw like 1970s or whatever. Whereas now we're trying to do things differently, and we're trying to bring young talent through. All right, our academy is not great, and we do want it to be like a Cat 1, which it isn't. But like, company's got an eye for younger talent abroad. Like some of the players I mentioned, Lau Foster, all right, he's a little bit older, but, you know, your Odegaards, your Coley Oshos, you know, we're getting these younger lads and we're bringing them in, and that's just something we didn't do back in the day. Like Sean Dyche had bring in, and no disrespect, he's clearly a brilliant manager, and I loved him, and he's still the greatest ever manager that Burnley have had in my lifetime, and he probably always will be. But he used to sign players like Dale Stephens and Danny Drinkwater, and whereas companies going abroad and buying these young up-and-coming players, and it's just a different way of doing things, and I think it'd just be silly now if we got rid of him and brought in a completely different style of manager. If we got rid of him and brought in somebody of that ilk, then I'd understand, but who is better at doing that than Vincent Kompany? Like, he's a household name across Europe, and whereas Burnley as a club isn't. You know, people in Belgium don't know much about Burnley Football Club, but they know a lot about Vincent Kompany for obvious reasons. So I think,
so do you like the player IDs then that he brings in? Because
exactly
the players that he's brought in are exciting. I mean, Coley Osho has been, he's quality watching him, and the other players, you know, that he's brought in. So I understand. Is that what you enjoy seeing?
Essentially, the way we're trying to do things is different. The player profiles are different, and I'm liking the fact that we're doing that. And we're down now. Like, look, we're 7 points off Luton in 17th, and no disrespect to Luton, but that is ridiculously embarrassing considering we finished 21 points above them last season and then spent 120 million in the summer, whereas they spent 4.5. Wow. So in that respect, it's embarrassing, and this season clearly hasn't gone to plan, but we are down now, so what's the point in getting rid of him now? Like, nobody's going to come in and win 8 games out of 14. It's just not going to happen. So we might as well carry this into next season. He's already proven himself at Championship level. Win the league again, fingers crossed. Obviously, depends who comes down with us and who stays down and how we get on next year. And then go again next time in the Premier League, hopefully.
Fair enough. And I love speaking to the opposition fan because you get a real insight. And this is a question that's kind of at the forefront of my mind. When we come there, because me and Robbie will be travelling up there on Saturday to watch the game, will Kompany, I'm sure he's not going to change his tactics. No. So are you going to play this the same way? Because I'll be honest, we're trying to do possession and keep the ball against us. I think we'll have a field day with it, personally. I don't know. I don't expect him. Kompany, listen, he's been under, again, like the likes of Pep and that, so he understands, I think he understands the game well. I know he's adamant about keeping his philosophy, but I'm telling you, this football can go either way, you never know. But I just think if they stick to the way you guys are playing, Arsenal might just come there and really roll you guys over. I'm trying to be respectful, but that is, and do you know what? It's better I'm not respectful because then normally it blows up in my face. But generally, I don't know. Do you think anything will change, or is he going to stick to the way he's been playing?
He'll stick to it, but it's not just keep the ball at all costs anymore like it was at the start of the season. He has tweaked it slightly. Like, we get ourselves under so much pressure. Brentford away was the main one because we lost 2 goals, I think it was, by holding the ball in the middle, waiting for a pass that wasn't on. And since then, we've changed it up slightly. Like, yes, we will always try and play possession, and if the pass is on, look for the pass, and if it isn't on, look a little bit longer. But then if it doesn't come, it is now get rid of it sort of thing. Like, we have started to implement that a little bit more. Whereas at the start of the season, it was just keep it for the sake of keeping it. Even with Trafford now, you will see him go along quite a lot, which actually works a little bit more when we have Fofana, because he is good at holding the ball up and winning headers. So fingers crossed. We don't dally too much on the ball, because I agree. I think if you press us and press as well, then we could end up getting caught out. But look, we've seen plenty of teams do that to us this season, so it wouldn't be the most surprising thing in the world if Arsenal came and got a few cheap goals because we're holding on for it too long.
Fair enough. I want to get, Joe, time to kind of get your thoughts on Arsenal so far this season. I know I don't expect this, and obviously it's our club. We follow them, so we don't know the most about them. But from an opposition point of view, you mentioned that you watched the West Ham game. I saw the 6 goals behind the sofa in the end. But what have you made them? Because since the Dubai break, since we went to warm weather training, since we've come back from that, it's been we've been on fire. But what have you made of Arsenal so far this season?
I mean, obviously, I think you've improved to what you were last season. I think this is normally the stage where Arsenal do kind of fade away and will then end up battling with Tottenham and Villa for top 4, for example. Whereas I do think you will remain in the title race. I just think you'll ultimately fall short because of how good City are, not because of how poor you are, if that makes sense. Whereas last season, I feel like you fell away because of how poor you were. Whereas this season, I think you'll stick in it. I've been impressed with Arsenal. Obviously, you've got some good players. What's the Norwegian lad called again? Because I keep saying
Odegaard.
That's it. Because I keep saying Odegaard. I nearly said Odegaard then. I'm like, it's not him, it's Odegaard. Yeah, but obviously he's class. He pulls the strings. I love him. He's a brilliant player. He did have a little bit of a quiet spell recently, to the point where I actually got rid of him in my fantasy draft league. I gave him to another lad. Traded him for Grealish. Now I'm like, can I have him back, please? Because Grealish ain't playing.
Yeah, Odegaard's he's come back on great
Honestly,
form. Honestly,
right, he was class against West Ham, and so he worries me, because if he gets the freedom of Turf Moor, which a lot of players do, he will really pull the strings. But
is he the one then? Is he the danger player for you? Then is he out of everyone, or is there? Because most people always go to Bukayo Saka, but is it Odegaard? Are you saying like you just said there? If he starts to dictate, it's problems for Burnley.
Saka's the obvious one because of how much joy he gets down the wings. But I think some players like Odegaard are sometimes underappreciated in a sense, because they do all the dirty work in the middle. Yeah. And because KDB is a similar type of player, but probably better, I don't think he gets as much credit as he deserves. And I do think his quality. And our midfield can go missing quite a lot, so that area does worry me. So if he's given the freedom, he can pull the strings, get it out to the likes of Saka, get it wide, then I think he'll have a lot of joy.
Definitely. And listen, this is the kind of conversations going around social media at the moment, is Mbappe potentially to Arsenal. I want to get, just from a Burnley fan's perspective, because obviously it's likely that he'll go to Real Madrid, but a player like that, and I don't know if obviously you support Burnley, just that name maybe being attached to a Premier League club, would that be, do you think, from your view, a game changer for Arsenal if we got Mbappe into?
Well, it'd be a game changer for anybody. Like even if you stuck him in a Man United side, like they might actually start doing well again. Like he's such a good player. But it's funny you say that, actually, because literally 45 minutes ago I had a friend round at my house and the news came up that Mbappe whatever on his phone, and he was saying, have you seen this about Mbappe yesterday, saying he's definitely leaving PSG, and Arsenal are interested in him, and we both just sort of laughed and went, he's obviously going Madrid though, innit? Like we all know he's going Madrid, we all know he wants to go to Madrid, and then we started talking about, obviously, at least you can dream, but let's be realistic, like he's going Madrid. Like Madrid are that club now. He's always liked Madrid. I don't particularly. I was going to say I don't know why. Obviously, I know why, but I don't particularly get why he's constantly always panned over Madrid. Excuse me, when he's been at PSG. But just look at how good Madrid are going to be now. Like I was saying to my mate earlier, like, do you remember the Galacticos of the early 2000s?
Yep.
They're getting back to that stage again, aren't they? They're getting back to that stage again. So
they've got all the biggest names in football.
I'd love to see him in the Prem, especially if Burnley go back up. I'd love to see him at Turf Moor, but I think he's going to be like Messi. It's just never going to happen, is it? He's going to be one that's just constantly in a foreign league, unfortunately.
That's a good way to look at it. Mbappe playing against Burnley at Turf Moor.
It's funny, like, because when these big names go to clubs like yourselves and City and stuff, like that's my first thought. Like, I get to see him at Turf Moor. Like, it's mad. Like, and it's actually quite funny.
It's fair.
Because Ronaldo's obviously played at the Turf now, because he played at United for a couple of bit. But whereas when Ronaldo were coming through the ranks, we were languishing in the Championship and stuff back then. And it was actually quite funny because he had a poor game and got marked out of the game by Eric Peters, and he was one of our worst defenders at the time. So I doubt doubt Mbappe would have similar issues, but yeah, obviously we'd love to see it. We look forward to seeing the sort of players sometimes, obviously, but not too much, and hopefully they don't get too much joy against us, but sometimes they do.
Of course. I just want to quickly ask you, for like aspirations, do you expect Burnley to, stay up, or is it looking like it's kind of concrete for them to go down?
I mean, I felt like we've been down since we threw a home game away against West Ham. I think that was in like October. We were 1-0 up for the majority of the game. The better side, all of a sudden, they scored 2 easy goals. We just handed them the win, and then they won 2-1. And ever since then, I thought, yeah, we're down. But I think it's pretty much nailed on now. Like, I've just got the league table up in front of me. You said earlier we are 19th on 13 points. We've won 3 games all season. And that's out of 24 games. We've won 3 games. So there's what? My maths is terrible. 14 games left in the season. So for Burnley to stay up, out of them 14, they probably need to, at the very minimum, need to win 6, probably 7. Like, it's too much of a turnaround, isn't it? It's just not going to happen. You never know. Forest might get docked 10 points and Everton might get docked another 5, and then even then,
you never know.
Even then, we'll probably finish 18th. So it's all focusing on next season now, I think, for us.
Okay, amazing. I want to get, before we close off, your score prediction for the game against us on Saturday. Where we're going.
You're laughing because you know I'm obviously not going to be very, very confident about this one. Obviously, I've already done my pre-game show, and we've recently played City, who beat us 3-1 at their place. We've recently played Liverpool, who beat us 3-1 at their place. So I've just gone for 3-1 to Arsenal because these sides are on the same level as you, probably City a little bit above you. And, we managed to get a goal against them. I know you've got a better defensive record than them all, and we do have Lyle Foster missing, but I think Fofana gives us something a little bit different, and he will be up for it being a Chelsea loanee, obviously. So I think he might grab a goal, but yeah, I think you'll win and you'll beat us comfortably, and you'll get the 3 points that you need. Yeah, well, thank you, Joe, for that. I've gone with a 4-1 scoreline prediction. I think we'll concede as well. Funny enough, same thing. David Fofana, I think, might cause us an issue, but hopefully we'll be comfortable apart from that. But if you do go down, I do hope you bounce straight back up because, you guys are trusted in company. I like company. Would like to have him continue going in the Premier League as well. I like his style of football. And to be fair, I didn't really look at his talent ID, but of course the players he's brought in, they are a joy to watch. So hopefully that does continue. But Joe, let them know where they can find you as well before we move on. Yeah, sure. So obviously, Turfcast Podcast is the channel. You can search that on any social media. You'll find it. We have a YouTube channel and, of course, a podcast. But if you want to just hit me up, it's at JoeTomRed on Twitter. Listen, thank you so much for joining me, Joe. And not too much luck, but good luck come Saturday. I'll be up there. I don't know. Would anyone be there from Turfcast or not? Yeah, I'll be there. I've got a season ticket. I normally go to Fan Zone pre-game, have a few beers, or maybe potter about, depending how early I can get away from the family, to be honest. And I might have a few beers, sometimes in the dash, sometimes at the Fan Zone. But yeah, definitely going to be there, mate. Amazing. Well, we'll try and find you, me and Robbie, when we get up there as well. Yeah, but listen, thank you. And thank you, everyone that's watched this. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Make sure you check out all the build-up content for the big game come Saturday. It's Burnley versus Arsenal. I'll see you again soon. Take care, people. Peace.